Hey guys, and welcome back to Windsor Time. We're in a bit of a different setting today. Today we are in your new Breitling mini boutique
Yeah,
store within a store.
we kind of call it a corner. It's kind of like a
Yeah,
U-shaped corner, and we're super proud of it. It's amazing. We'll do some nice shooting of this a little later, but it's amazing how much work goes into a medium-sized corner for a brand. But it really turned out beautifully, and it makes a great spot to shoot something like this.
it does absolutely. Yeah, we were laughing about it right before. We tried to shoot in a different area of the store last time, and it just did not work at all. But setting up the lighting for this, I was like, oh, this looks really good. And I think it's interesting with retail now. I'm sure you're seeing a shift from the traditional layout of jewelry stores to almost like that mini store, mini boutique kind of
Yeah.
feeling.
It's experiential retail,
Yeah.
storytelling retail, no question, is not only the future, but it's right here with us now. And I think even more so in the future, just that standing behind the showcase selling is gonna
Yeah.
change.
Well, and it's more of a warm feeling, and we'll get into some of the pre-owned stuff that's Breitling. Go figure. But whenever you guys were developing the space, how long did this take? It felt like it took a while.
Yeah, it took a little while, and some of that is general contracting versus actual planning, but a lot goes into it, and it's a collaboration of what Breitling or what any brand would see fit for their space, given the space we can give them and allocate, and also what we want to add and tweak, and what gets approved and
Yeah,
whatnot. And as we all know, the Swiss are very particular, so
definitely.
but it turned out beautifully, and we're super proud of it.
It did,
Really
absolutely.
represents the brand well.
Yeah, for sure. We'll get a couple shots and have them on there, but very cool space. So that's where we're at today. So with that kind of covered, what do you have on the wrist today? Something kind of
So
interesting.
yeah, this is a really kind of oddball piece, but this is the Patek Philippe 3574A. So it is it's actually moniker 74, but also from year production 1974, and it's this kind of slightly oblong, very 70s,
Yeah,
simple yet kind of charming piece that it came about. I mean, essentially right before and or in the middle of the quartz crisis. So kind of a funky '70s piece where a lot of the Swiss brands didn't know exactly where they were going at the time,
yeah,
and this represents that. It's very simple, just hour, minute, no
yeah.
small seconds, no running seconds. But what I love about this, not only does it have this kind of like sea blue, just dark blue dial, kind of gray blue, I guess, but it has these unbelievable guilloche or sort of Clos de Paris hands,
Yeah.
hobnail hands, reminiscent of what we see on current Calatravas and other Pateks of the past, but rarely on the actual indices and hands. And I think it just really sets this piece apart.
Absolutely. That was one I didn't even know existed, and I think
Yeah, I
that
barely did, honestly. I'm not. It's
well,
new to me. I can't speak like I'm some historian on it, but it just kind of screamed at me. And
yeah,
not to shout them out, but John Reardon had done a great little piece on this watch. I think he said two or three of them go through collectability.
yeah,
And once I saw one on there, this did not come from collectability, but I saw one on there, really kind of fell in love with it, and I was like, okay,
yeah.
when the right one pops up, I'm gonna jump on it.
Absolutely. When you're looking at vintage Patek with something like that, like I said, I haven't ever seen it, and I feel like I see it quite a lot. Is that something, because that came from Japan, is
This
that
one
something
came
that
from,
would have been more distributed in Japan as opposed to the US,
I,
or
you
just
know,
kind of depends?
going back to that, I mean, John once again just had a cool Japanese only make of white gold
Yeah,
elongated Patek on his website, and it was distributed only in Japan, that particular model at the time. It could be that stylistically this fit with the Japanese
yeah,
style at the time more, but I think this one just happened to be there.
yeah,
But what I do love about it is exactly what you were getting at earlier, and that's that while everyone else is still going crazy over Nautilus and Aquanaut and everything, which are amazing watches, it is cool to find something that's just a little different and under the radar and might be mistaken for something else that's not Patek.
yeah.
And I appreciate that, in today's world of hype watches and everything.
There was a Longines, I'll see if I can find a photo of it, early on in my collecting that I had that had a very similar case to that.
Yeah.
I want to say it was like 90s, but that was a quartz watch, like totally different, but it is
Yeah.
funny that shape
I mean, you can find this
is
identical
so,
shape throughout Seiko and
yeah,
many other brands across the price spectrum as well, and other higher end luxury brands, and just kind of harkens back to the time, but also not everyone did it quite as thin as
it is
Patek did. It's
incredibly thin, yeah.
unbelievably thin up
Incredibly
close,
thin.
but it's
Yeah.
beautiful. But how about you?
Cool.
Speaking of
I
hype
sound like a
watches,
little.
speaking of hype
So
watches,
going to the complete opposite. I have my Daytona on today. It's one. Was that I think it was August of last year.
sounds
Picked
right.
up.
Yeah.
And it's become a favorite. It's so good. It's the previous generation, which I just love so much. And I know like they're very very similar, but this one. Was one I really specifically wanted to go with some of the other stuff that I have in my collection.
Yeah.
And I've just loved it ever since.
Have you gotten to get hands-on yet with the current gen? Do you recall?
Yeah,
With
I
the-
think I've
with
seen
the-
both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're cool.
They're both
but
awesome.
I don't. There had been a question of, oh, do you want the new one or do you want this generation? And I remember I went back and forth quite a bit, but in the end opted for this. And then seeing the newer generation, it's very cool. Rolex, obviously, like brands like Porsche and stuff like that, iterate
Always evolving.
slightly, and it is a great new thing that comes out. But absolutely no regrets on getting this generation.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a classic.
It is. So, back to Breitling. We have some cool pre-owned pieces, and we kind of went with a range,
Yeah,
if you
kind
will,
of two
what they
sides of
have.
the spectrum.
Yeah, absolutely. So why don't we jump into rose gold first? Really, really killer premier chronograph.
Yep.
Tell us about it.
Oh man. Well,
From your days, and it is
OC
worth bringing up.
OCD,
Once
I'm gonna
upon a
set the hands
time,
to 10. Yeah, so
young Ben.
this watch was a little post my brief career at Breitling, but I did work for Breitling for 3 or 4 years in Manhattan. Kind of at the time of the launch of the Fifth Avenue, 57th Street, and Madison-esque boutique, which has now changed location once or twice.
Yeah.
This watch was not quite out at that time,
Yeah.
but this is kind of the newest iteration of the Premier, which is just stunning. Has this kind of, I mean, a lot of people would see it and think it's a little tall, but when it's on the wrist, it wears great. It would almost not wear as well if it was any thinner.
Yeah.
Has just that perfect Breitling chronograph action, which we'll get some good B-roll of.
Absolutely.
And definitely walks the line between that kind of like could be a dress watch, but wears super casually at the same time.
Absolutely.
Hard to say anything, negative about it. It's just a killer watch, syringe hands.
Yeah.
And it's just a beast.
It's phenomenal. You're seeing a lot of brands like this. IWC is a good one that does it as well, that make dressier watches, but the sizing, the weight, and the complications, I feel like, usually lend a little more on the sporty side.
Yeah.
So for the guy, there's plenty of so many endless models from their sports line around us here, but if you want something on a leather strap, I think this is a great way to have that and still get that Breitling DNA, that Breitling design, but just in a little bit more formal
And
packaging.
it has this like perfect modern vintage feel. It's got the convex crystal, so you get that kind of dome-esque, look through it. It feels very vintage, but it's as, resilient and tough and everything you would want in a modern sports watch. And kind of, interesting to see George Kern, as polarizing a figure as he can be in the watch industry, has done just a phenomenal job with Breitling. And I loved Breitling when I was there, but it's a whole different animal today. And the energy with Breitling is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And very importantly, not that it's about price per se, but this watch, I forget the exact MSRP on it when it's new. But this watch new is an unbelievable value compared to a let's say an analogous gold chronograph watch of that substantial nature from another brand. I mean, it's on a big gold folding clasp as well.
It is.
Beautiful alligator strap.
Phenomenal.
It is just, it's a great package of a watch.
Yeah, we'll put the price on screen, but I can't remember exactly. But yeah, it is. I remember seeing the price, especially pre-owned when I photographed it, and I went, wow, I mean, what else in this price range could you get?
Yeah.
I mean, incredibly.
Probably not
detailed
anything in
inside.
gold.
No, not anything on gold, but really phenomenal weight and beautiful watch.
Yeah, very very few people do, or brands do chronographs as well as a modern Breitling chronograph.
Absolutely.
So.
And it is, like you mentioned, with George Kern. So when you were there, that would have been...
It was still the Schneider family. It's still
So
Teddy Schneider still was the ownership and then it was sold, and it was a pretty interesting time. I departed from Breitling before it was sold, so I didn't get to go through all of that. But it was it was very much a family feel of a company. I mean, it felt independent, very Breitling, just we do everything our way, and it
Sure.
still feels that they're the only brand I feel like that has kept that feeling,
Yeah.
even though they're not technically family owned anymore.
Yeah,
And
I
every
would
other
say so.
brand seems to go very corporate once they're
Yeah.
taken over, and they've done a good job of holding on to that.
They have, and it's amazing coming from, and I think it was a little bit before your era. It was more early 2000s. That whole Breitling for Bentley, large,
Yeah.
diamond blinged out, to now, just incredible.
Yeah.
Really heritage-driven watches are incredible.
Absolutely.
But outside of heritage, they still do some really phenomenal modern sports watches, and I think this is also a great example.
This is a
that.
really awesome example of that. This is the Breitling Endurance Pro, and this is a previously enjoyed version, pre-owned watch, but it is the current version. Super lightweight, composite material.
Yeah, incredible.
Once again, other side of the spectrum, that Breitling really has something for everyone, which is another nice thing about the brand. It's not catering to just one client.
Yeah.
And this is a great first-time watch for someone. This is a great watch for a watch collector who has everything, but then wants something durable he can go hiking in, or
Mountain biking.
mountain biking like Noah.
Yeah.
And we should go mountain biking after this. It's beautiful out there.
We should. Well, the trails are still a little wet, but
Yeah, that's
possibly.
true.
This is a really interesting two-watch collection.
It is.
Because if you think about, you have your dress every day, go to the office, do whatever you got to do, cocktail watch, and then, something like this. And I think, again, when you're looking at a brand, that's what you want.
Yeah.
You could have two watches from very different sides of their price point and have all your needs met. Really.
Yeah.
I mean, truly all your, I think this is only 100 meters water resistance or something like that. You could probably swim with it.
Gets
I
the
would
job
say.
done.
Yeah, you could swim within a pool
Absolutely.
and stuff like that. But
Yep.
I mean, you have this and then this, and I think from a branding perspective, they both make sense and they both stay within those brand guidelines, but still have so much unique character, which is just phenomenal. And like you said, at this one, for under $3,000, especially previously enjoyed, I don't know what you get that's better in this specific category.
Absolutely.
And I mean, it's one of those names, you have, your Rolexes, your Omega, and then Breitling is right there. And in that same conversation, I mean, it's just as well known and prestigious in the
Absolutely.
general public.
It's amazing. And one thing that just crossed my mind as you were talking was, neo vintage Breitling. I'm going off on a tangent a little bit, but I think Breitling pricing, sometimes I feel like it pulls down a little bit from MSRP if you're buying something pre-owned, but there are a lot of great values out there, but especially that early 90s, late 80s, early 90s to late 90s Breitling.
Yeah.
You can find just the most phenomenal watches out there that they're not forgotten watches by any means, because there's so many just avid collectors of them, but the price points are still very palatable compared to a lot of the other things out there from certain other brands. So I think there's just a real collector story out there too.
I mean, one word, Navitimer.
A Navitimer.
I mean, that's one of the most iconic
Yeah.
watches in that category. And I mean, the value for money and what you can get is just, you don't see that in vintage Daytona. You don't see that in other vintage, Patek, AP sport models.
Yeah.
It just isn't there. But
And there's this just feeling with the Navitimer. We could pull one out if we really wanted to right now, but feeling with the Navitimer that it just does not duplicate any other watch out there. It's very much like the Omega Speedmaster. It's very much its own watch with its own lore and history, and just you're wearing that watch and it feels like nothing else except a Breitling Navitimer, which is
Absolutely.
rare to find in today's watch world.
it is. Absolutely. Awesome. Well, any closing words?
No, just it's really cool to see how Breitling has evolved as a brand, and even though they're technically part of a larger group now, they still truly have an independent spirit, and they make a hell of a watch.
They do. Absolutely. Couldn't say it better. If you guys are interested in these pre-owned models, they should be up on the website now if you're watching this roughly when it comes out. But for any new Breitling needs, definitely come out and check this new space out in the Charlotte location.
Be happy
really,
to have
really
you.
Cool. Yeah. And I think that's a good place to end it. Awesome. We'll see you guys next time. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content just like this.